Hi friends, Rod here. Let me ask you a question. Have you seen the Netflix series Drive to Survive? Do you want to hear me and Zach record a special podcast talking just about it? Well, you can. All you need to do is go to superlicense.com.au and join the Superlicense Club at the $5 a month level. And you'll hear us talk all about it. Things like this.
It's not really about who's going to win the championship.
It's really like a 30 for 30 season, except every single episode is just about Formula One.
To see Esteban Ocon going through the paces and seeing him with his eyes closed doing the entire track, with just a little steering wheel in front of him, like I felt incredibly close, like probably closer than ever before to a Formula One driver.
That is why you get a filmmaker to make these and not a racer, not a race director, you know?
And we've got two great drivers, but Max Verstappen, he's magic. Oh my God.
All that and many minutes more. All you need to do is go to superlicense.com.au, click on the club link and join the Superlicense Club at the $5 a month level or above, and we will unlock all of the episodes of our special members-only podcast called Drift, including the episode covering Netflix Drive to Survive.
Why don't we have that all the time?
Yeah. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Superlicense F1 podcast. My name is Rodney.
And my name is Zach.
I'm going to put you on the spot, Zach. Remember last week we said we were going to do flair during the introductions? How do you want your flair? What do you want your flair to be?
I came away with that feeling like maybe I had over-flared, and I have been told by a person at work that Zachary in, I think, Greek is from the root word for sugar, and my surname is Priest. So I am Zachary Sugar Priest.
Sugarman? Sugarman. The F1 Sugarman.
Not to be confused with Finding Sugarman, because they found him and he was great and fine. But no, I'm just Zachary.
That's the thing about that documentary, right?
Priest.
They pitch it as a mystery and they're like, where's Sugarman? And then they find him in the first 5 minutes and they're like, where you been? He's been like, been here.
Yeah, didn't know you wanted to talk to me.
Crazy. I'm in the phone book under S, man. Come on. Zach, the French Grand Prix this weekend. We've got so much to talk about. A whole race, so many laps to talk about, and all of the events so eventful. What a Are we going to do our normal race?
We're going to do our normal thing of going lap by lap. If this is your first time listening to the show, that's what we do. We go
real-time
lap by
recreation
lap.
Of what happened, including all the noises, all the gear shifts. Zach's going to do all those.
Yeah. I don't want to give it away, but I can give you a little bit of it.
Spoilers, man. Spoilers. Before we get into it, maybe we'll just say hello to a couple of new people who have tweeted us to say, hey, we're new. Hi, new people. You watched
nice.
Netflix or just, are friends of mine or what have you. But hello, new people. It's great to have new people. It always feels good.
So great to have new people. I'm so glad that Formula One is still growing as an audience. Otherwise, that would be a concern.
Well, we're here to talk about the French Grand Prix. You won't know what we're talking about unless I do my patented French Grand Prix intro, so let me do this. Lean back, grab a cheeky glass of red, relax, and let the French Grand Prix wash over you. Covered in ziggy-zaggy, liney things, driving the Paul Ricard circuit is like running in slow motion along a beach while the Baywatch theme plays. Recent highlights from the French Grand Prix include such thrilling moments as last year's race and this year's race. With 16 corners and more layouts than an outdoor henhouse, the French Grand Prix returned to the Formula One calendar in 2018, despite warnings about the constant and very real threat of a wild guerrilla attack. Still not excited? Well, what are you going to do? Not watch it? Put down your hipster cigarello and come fly with me to France, baby.
That was great. I was watching the race this weekend, and my partner happened to be beside me, and I was like, oh, shh. This is David Crofty's thing. I always like to see if Crofty's is better than Rod's. It never is. It never is. Yours is always way better. They should just put yours in. Well, in fact, everybody out there, David Croft has a Twitter account. You should be tweeting at him and tell him that Rod should be writing all his intros for him.
Yeah, you're out of the job. But
would you take
close all the Wikipedia tabs? And would I take Crofty's job or just the intro?
No, not even doing the intro. I'm saying, would you take a job writing the intro for him? You'd never get the credit, but would you do it, knowing that
Zach,
it was
listen
yours?
to what you're saying. Rod, would you take a job where you write words and David Croft has to read them out? Are you kidding? Of course I would. Of course I would take that job. That would be so much fun. Oh boy. Well, yeah. Look forward to that. That'll be a chapter in the memoir. The year that Rod was able to make David Croft say any words that he liked. Before this gets blue, Zach, maybe we should get into the race recap?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let us race a bit. I gave him space.
Suck my balls, mate.
Let's hurry up and get out of here. We've got a race to do.
Gave him space, he's got a race to do, etc. All of the race things. It's the French Grand Prix, Zach. This is the second year in the modern era of the French Grand Prix. Yeah, I mean, it's not a very exciting one, and I feel like it's becoming a bit of a cliche now to say, hey, we're going to intro the race talk with a 30-second recap, and we may not fill the 30 seconds, but boy, for the sixth race in a row, that really feels kind of true, doesn't it?
It does. I think we're in the age of what I like to call watching two sports at once. The summer of two sports. Because there is the Women's World Cup of football on. There is the World Cup of cricket on right now. Our Australian own Ash Barty is nailing all tennis, or women's tennis.
Yes, our women are, in general, Australian women are doing very, very well. Just in general.
And there is not... and the African... I think what's it called? Is it League of Nations or something like that? Of African football is on right now. There is endless sports, so much so. There's golf, everything. That just watch your Formula One on the big TV and get yourself another sports stream on your phone or tablet. And
it does remind me of the time that I tried to watch a Test match, cricket match, on television. Watch with my eyes. And getting bored and thinking, I'll read a book while I'm watching this cricket match. That's the thing people can do, read a book while watching cricket. And then I was like, my ears are a bit bored. I think I'll listen to a podcast while I'm reading this book. And then after about 10 minutes, my brain just shut down and went, no, Rod, no, you can't do that. That is just too many things. Well, anyway, time to do a 30-second recap. It's my turn in the rotation, so I will give it a red-hot go. But you can just put your feet up and relax, Zach, and I've got this one at least for the next 35 or so seconds. Enjoy yourself, enjoy that time, have a breather, and prepare to come back with a big bang when I finish this. French Grand Prix, boy, what an easy win from Lewis Hamilton. Even Bottas couldn't do anything about it. And Vettel screwed up in qualifying and he couldn't really even get onto the podium, so that was pretty pathetic. The real action was in the middle. It was all in the middle of the field, and the biggest talking points are the penalties. Sergio Perez got one earlier that he said he shouldn't have. Ricciardo got two late that he probably should have. And Romain Grosjean was complaining. I feel like that's probably what he does. And the French Grand Prix, this is now McLaren's favourite track, surely, because they had their best result in what seems like 30 or 40 years. Slight exaggeration, maybe. Slight exaggeration with the 30 or 40 years, but still. Yeah, I had 1 or 2 seconds there. That was, that was just to let people draw their own conclusions.
Is Lando Norris your driver of the day? Because he was certainly everybody else's, 27% of them or something.
Boy, you know what? I just don't see how that's possible. Carlos Sainz drove better than Lando Norris, and just because Lando Norris had a bit of a problem with his car at the end, that seems to be what they are giving him the driver of the day for. But I mean, I'm just not really a fan of that whole approach of congratulating drivers who, not that he caused the problem himself, but it's just he's dealing with a problem that he inherited. It's a bit like... I remember there's a really wet race in Brazil, and Max Verstappen lost control, and then he regained control, and they were like, oh, what a fantastic collect. I was like, yeah, but don't forget that he lost control. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's something that doesn't happen in
go for that.
Like baseball or cricket or other sports, where if you bubble a catch and you make it look spectacular, but it's like you shouldn't
because you were
caught
so
it
at
regularly though. Yeah, it doesn't you made it. It didn't need the roll, the somersault afterwards. It was fine as it. So
Sainz, my driver of the day, I reckon.
Sainz is your driver of the day. I mean, they are. This is beginning to be a bit of a concern, a bit of a thorn in the side of Red Bull, right? Renault are kind of making it work, and I mean from an engine perspective, and that means that McLaren's chassis and all the other work that they're doing, which they've always said, or even Fernando Alonso's kind of said, is like the car's always been good, it's the other parts that haven't been great. And now the other parts have kind of worked themselves out, and Renault's put a bit of work into that as well, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Some new top-end speed from Renault, meaning that they're more competitive over an entire race weekend. I mean, both Renault and McLaren, which kind of is the consistency that I think manufacturers tend to bring to Formula One. And McLaren is as close to a manufacturer without their own engine as you can kind of get. So I'm not surprised anymore when I see them performing. The real problem is Red Bull, which is that they're not going forwards as much as catching up to Ferrari and Mercedes. I mean, no one's catching up to Mercedes, but that Pierre Gasly is not going anywhere. Especially when it's not like Max Verstappen is the world's most incredible driver with the world's most experience. He's very, very, very good and could be a future world champion. And he's got more experience than Gasly, but he's absolutely putting him to the sword every weekend. Like, it's like Gasly isn't even there. Do you think he's going to make it through the season if he keeps performing like this?
I think as soon as Red Bull have a better driver than him to put in that seat, he will be in that seat. Let's just say the Russian Grand Prix is coming up and leave it there. Yeah, bring him back. The thing I would say about this, and I noticed this on Twitter when they post out, here's the driver standings and the team standings, is that it's pretty close between Ferrari and Red Bull, and really, Red Bull should be ahead of Ferrari if all things were equal. If you look at the points discrepancy between the Red Bull drivers, it's huge. I think Verstappen's on 100 and Gasly's down in the 30s, and it's like, if that 30 was 60 or 70, it would just be such a different contest right now. So, costing them massively.
Yeah, it's the one team. Maybe the other team would be Ferrari, where brand is as important as results, and he's not doing Gasly's doing a poor job for the brand. So, should we talk about Lewis Hamilton for the little bits that we saw him? He got a great start. He was off to the races. In fact, the start was really, really, really interesting. There was lots of tussling. Daniel Ricciardo looked like he was going to make up some spots and then break.
And then lost spots. Yeah.
It's like he looked around and went, oh yeah, this is where I usually break, and everybody else kept going. And it looks like it almost looked like he done it on purpose. Like, it was like, I got such a good start. You should go ahead, and I'll catch up with you guys later. He did a couple of weird
things, didn't he? Yeah, it almost looked like he thought he was about to get kind of wedged between two cars, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, he must have seen something, maybe even further up the road, that we didn't see. But whatever. And then
benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, we had some really good battling between the front three teams. That more and more, it seems like we can get through that phase every race. Everybody's really looking out for each other and not wanting to fuck anything up. I can't remember the last first lap incident at the front where something's gone really wrong amongst Ferrari, Red Bull, and Mercedes.
Yeah, probably would have involved Vettel though.
Yeah,
if
probably.
there was one, it would have involved him. Nothing comes to mind this year, certainly. Yeah,
and then Lewis he was like a second a lap faster over the first 5 laps, and he was gone. It was just whether he would get fastest lap. Even Bottas wasn't going to touch him. There was a point where Bottas was like 17 seconds behind him, and they were basically running exactly the same race. He was on a completely different level this weekend. Yeah, which is just furthering the idea that you put easily, I would say, at this point, easily the best driver on the grid and easily the best car. And as long as he gets pole, as long as those Mercedes don't have to follow, they're unbeatable. And you said it a few episodes ago that it wouldn't surprise you if Mercedes went 1-2 for every race. I mean, they're definitely going to win every race at this point.
Yeah, sure looks like it. And I mean, it's going to be... Imagine the party when Mercedes don't win a race for whatever reason. Just imagine. I don't even care anymore if it's from penalties or whatever. Give them the most unfair penalties right now. I just want to see a different result. My God. So many things to touch on there as well, because I think you talked about the fastest lap. We could get into Vettel being like... the worst of the best, if you want to put it that way, and being in the position to go for the fastest lap, so he did, only just barely taking it despite pitting on the final possible lap for fresh soft tyres. Still only just beat the next fastest lap, which was set by Hamilton on laps on hard tyres that were 30 laps old or something. So man, that is just that's absurd. The only thing worse than that would be if Vettel couldn't have actually done it and couldn't have taken the lap, because it would have just added insult to injury. And yeah, their little coded message that they were on plan F, well, I'll let you complete the joke, Zach.
Just really bad, right? It's,
plan
no,
F.
what did you, yeah,
F up, F you,
yeah.
F yourself, go F yourself.
You
Stick
don't
your
think
F and
plan
D
F
up
was
your
for
F
the
and H. Yeah.
Plan F is plan fastest lap or plan finish?
Lap.
Just finish.
Plan A was win and get the fastest lap. Plan B, win and don't get the fastest lap.
Plan.
All the way down to F, which is where we are.
Yeah, I wonder when Ferrari's just going to work it out that they just need somebody else to run this team. They can't, and not just another Marlboro exec or another flamboyant.
Maybe that is what they need, though.
No,
Maybe they need a Marlboro, Zach. Just smoking and growling at people. That seems to be when they at least care more that they're not doing well.
Yeah. I just don't think they think it's their fault. I think that's my problem with Ferraris. I think
that's a
Ferrari
good problem.
blame the sport and their competitors and never blame themselves. They're like,
Yeah.
everything's against us. It's like everything's actually in your favour all the time, it turns out. You don't pay for your own team. Shell does, and Philip Morris International, aka Marlboro. And the sport pays you essentially to be there. You're the biggest brand in the world, so you don't have to work, as far as Formula 1 goes, you don't have to work for that. So what is it exactly that you have against the sport? Is it just that you're not good enough at designing your cars? You're always second best, and Mercedes better. So, yeah, I'm kind of done with that narrative as well. I think, funnily enough, like Charles Leclerc is also done with it. I think he's going to look back on this and be like, was that the right move? Shouldn't I have just waited and gone to Mercedes when Bottas, they'd had enough of him? I don't know. So,
It's going to be really interesting to see what they do there and where other drivers go and who moves.
why don't we talk about the Perez thing? What did you make of his... So he went off the track, kind of got squeezed off and was like, all right, I'll go around that bollard that I have to, and drove across the sticky tape of multiple colours, all the different sticky tapes, and ended up on the other side, like 2 positions better than when he went off, and was like, well, what do you want me to do? Like, I did everything you told me to do, and was just fast.
Certainly he did what he was told. It's just that he still ended up getting an advantage. So unfortunately, he still deserves a penalty for that. I think the stewards have come out afterwards since then, like not even straight after the race, but, yesterday or today, saying, what you could have done is give those positions back, and then we would have been fine with that. And I guess that's what, if you want to ask us, what else could you have done? You could have done that, I suppose. I guess it's he did the right thing, certainly, but I mean, lots of drivers get penalties when they've done the right thing when they've also broken a penalty. So just because he cut across the track and went around the bollard, that means he doesn't he's mitigating his chances of getting a penalty. He just didn't mitigate them enough. So it's a lower chance of getting an advantage, but it's not a guarantee that you still haven't gained one. You just flawed it and flattered that little regulation, I suppose. I don't know. Maybe the bollard will be a few hundred meters down the road next time. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a really difficult thing to work out and manage, because I think I definitely like having more cars in the race. I think that going into gravel traps is both safety to prevent a car from smashing into a tyre wall or any other kind of wall, so that makes sense. But fundamentally, stopping the car and preventing them from continuing always means we end up with a safety car or something at least like that, and that driver and car is out of the race, which is never good. We want as many drivers staying in the race for as long as possible.
Ideally,
I think that's what we want.
want
I think we can agree on that. We want that. So, and they can't put really big bumps off the track because that'll break suspension, so you end up with the same problem, which is the car out. I think maybe we should just make them weave around instead of making it a straight line. Like, just make them drive around, polystyrene or witches' hats or bollards or something, instead of just going like, just drive down over there and then you can come back on.
That's a good idea. I think that's what they should do. I didn't realize, I didn't pick it up last year, and no one told me that the stuff on the ground is actually designed to slow them down. Those lines, they're coloured lines, so they're different. There's blue
I didn't know
and red
that
ones.
either.
I didn't know that either. And I picked up, here's a dumb story that I was just reminded of. Picked up at a bookshop, Jeff Lemon's book about Steve Smith's cricket controversy, the ball tampering thing. Picked it up, and after looking at the cover many, many times, just picked up my book and went, what's that? And then as I run my finger on the cover, I realised the lettering is coarse, as though it's made out of sandpaper. And I was like, of course, it's sandpaper. Oh my goodness, I'm so thick that I didn't put that together. I just sort of looked at it and went, oh yeah, that's a black cover with writing on it. You touch it, and you're like, oh, it's sandpaper. Oh, genius, they've thought of everything. But yeah, I just imagine it's a bit of sandpaper that they put down, big strip of blue sandpaper next to the track to just go, fun driving on that, guys.
Yeah, exactly. And then the red one's even worse, so it's just the lower grade of sandpaper.
Yeah, I guess so. Finer or more coarse. Well, I don't know. I'm pretty bad when it comes to that kind of
courses
thing.
for horses.
Yeah, and finer for diners. Where else do we go? Lewis Hamilton won, and he really tried to, at the end of the race, make a big deal about how difficult it was. Did you notice this? He's sort of like, oh man, I was sweating, man. I was doing so many things. It might have looked easy, but it wasn't, man. But I mean, do you believe that?
Well, it's funny because at the start of the race, David Croft had said, somebody had said, I can't remember, it might have been Ted Kravitz, it was like, I was speaking to some Mercedes
Easy win for you.
engineers, and they said easy win for you, and they were like, it's never easy. There's always things to worry about, like where are we going to book dinner tonight, all that kind of stuff. No, it wasn't really that. It was like, there's always something wrong. There's always a million things going on, which is probably true, right? I think if anybody here listening works with data, it's always like that. If you track every single thing, there's always something to be worried about. There's always another thing that could be slightly better. That's what I imagine it's actually like at Mercedes. It's like, oh, look, that little sensor on that specific part of the suspension is saying that things are 1 degree suboptimal as far as temperature goes. We should get that through to Lewis, and they probably do tell Lewis, and that's when he's probably like, all right, guys, shut up. I have to drive the car, though. I have to do that. I kind of know what's going on. Until I tell you that I need every bit of information possible, then you can tell me things. So I think that put this all in the same category of them consistently saying that Ferrari's got a better car. It's just all bullshit. That they make it seem really difficult when actually, for them, with all of their resources and everything. I'm not saying it's easy to design and drive a Formula 1 car and win Formula 1 races. It's not. But they're not having an incredibly difficult time right now.
No, I agree. And I think, sure, there might be always something that you've got to think about. But hey, there's things I've got to think about too. There's what I'm going to have for lunch tomorrow, and there's how I'm going to pay the mortgage next month. And one is on a different level than the other. So, sure, you can worry about things all you want. But sometimes things are a little bit more important. Like if Vettel was half a second behind Lewis throughout the whole race, you might be a little bit more worried. What else have we got here? Zach, do you want to just get to this crazy incident with the 4 cars towards the end of the race?
It was even before that. It was the fact that Charles Leclerc was maybe going to catch Bottas, so the race director threw to that.
Cut away.
Yeah, cut away.
It's like nothing happened.
Literally nothing happened. And then they go to a replay 3 minutes later. I was like, oh my God, everything happened.
Yeah, everything.
So
many
crazy.
Things. And I tweeted out, there's this new technology called split screen, guys. We don't need to choose just one thing.
I know. And the fact that it seems like the commentators only have one. They only see one feed as well. They're not looking at multiple feeds, so they've got no idea what's happening anywhere else either. It's so odd. So Ricciardo was chasing Norris, who had car problems, and he was catching him in like a lap and a half a second. A lap and a half. A second and a lap.
Man, that's fast.
Oh my God.
One more go.
A second and a half per lap. Perfect. I almost did it again. And he got up to him and he was like, I'm going to make this pass. And he couldn't really for a couple of laps. It was like, come on, mate. That's your opportunity. And it just shows that the McLaren is still quick in a straight line. We didn't have to do anything, no steering or anything like that, that his hydraulic problems would have an impact on. Couldn't use the DRS either, but it's quick. It's very quick in a straight line, which means it's difficult to overtake. And that's what Daniel Ricciardo, I would say, one of the best overtakers on the grid right now, is having real problems and didn't want to just throw up the inside. I would say that he probably also doesn't want to get on the wrong side of their customer team of McLaren. I don't think he wanted to take Norris out or anything like that. I don't think he was going to try anything to really muscle past him. I think he was just trying to... And he didn't want to wreck his own race either, right? He knew that if he didn't get past, he was still going to get good points. So when he eventually does make the move, which I think is an okay move, he just gets it wrong, goes 4 wheels off the track, loses positions to everybody else, and Raikkonen gets past him, and then he works his next line out, drives off the track again, quite obviously so, on a part of that is definitely not the track. That's when they should have grass. There should be grass on the side there, not just blue lines. And it obviously doesn't slow you down that much because he just drove around Raikkonen, no trouble. So actually, is the blue sandpaper doing anything at all? Because we've had Sergio Perez drive over it, and it didn't seem to slow him down either. So maybe it doesn't work, these different coloured tapes. And then drove himself into 7th and was like, look guys, look how good I am. And then immediately everybody watching was like, no. Once maybe the first one maybe, but the second one definitely not.
Because the whole setup was that he tried the similar move to Norris on Grosjean laps and laps and laps earlier and got away with it. And I think Grosjean got on the radio and said, he went off the track and rejoined. It was so dangerous. But I mean, drivers it's autopilot that they do that these days. And he got away with that one, so he might have been thinking, that's my spot and I can pull the move there. Did the same thing to Norris, but it was way deeper. The steward said that the way Ricciardo rejoined the track, the angle that he was on made Norris think that there was going to be a collision, so Norris had to leave the track. That was the only thing that I wasn't sure about with the Ricciardo-Norris one. If Norris had stayed on the track, I would have been more willing to accept that Ricciardo deserved a penalty for it. But the fact that like Ricciardo went a little bit off but was in front, and then Norris tried to just redesign where the corner went. I mean, sure, the track's not the most exciting one. Any attempt to redesign the track is usually welcome, but in this case, he just went, well, I just don't want to be within 50 meters of you. I'm going to drive right away from you. I was like, you're not even racing anymore. So I was like, well, if you're opting out of racing, then why should you deserve the benefit of the doubt? But then, yeah, the Ricciardo versus Raikkonen one. Don't understand why Ricciardo went to the right when the whole the other side of the track was there. I know that's the outside of the next corner, but man, you saw the pace that he had. He could have just gone to the left instead of the right and still got the move done. But very, very obviously went off the track. Maybe he didn't know because of all the lines and the no grass. I don't know, but I don't know. Just looked a bit.
He's not having
silly,
a lot of
maybe.
success driving outside the lines.
I was thinking exactly that. Thinking back to the Melbourne start. Yes, I thought the exact same thing. And he was called amateurish there by some people who were maybe being a bit harsh. Yeah, it's hard to deny that this movie is a little bit amateurish, but he had a sense of humour about it afterwards. And someone even tried to say, "Oh, I saw you pulled the move off on Grosjean." He's like, "Grosjean? I wasn't never racing Grosjean." They were like, "Yeah, you very much were." He's like, "Nah." Was I? And they're like, yeah. He's like, oh, okay, cool. Okay, all right then. Like, dude, what planet are you on, Dan? It's time to switch on, mate. F1 weekend, switch on.
I think he's having a lot of fun at Renault. I think he's really enjoying not having Red Bull pressure. And he's enjoying being the number one driver at Renault, even though Nico Hülkenberg probably doesn't know that he's number two.
Well, I have to say about Nico Hülkenberg, someone said that he Ricciardo's out qualified him 7 races in a row or something, and Hülkenberg just not really in and amongst it in the race. I mean, he sort of got onto the back of that pack and then inherited a spot thanks to Daniel getting 2 penalties. But yeah, what's going on with Hülkenberg?
I don't know. I don't think he's feeling it right now. Or it could be a little bit like Charles Leclerc at Sauber last year was making the Sauber look a bit better than it was. And I think Daniel Ricciardo's racecraft is a bit better than Nico Hülkenberg's.
Could be.
And qualifying. Yeah. Qualifying these days, right now, is having a huge impact on the race because no one's overtaking anyone. So qualifying does quite a lot of good, especially if you're Daniel Ricciardo and you cannot do a race start properly. So he loses places every single time and has a bad first part of the race. He's got the racecraft to make up those positions again and kind of be in it, which is where coming back to the McLaren Renault reliability and just their packages is maybe best of the rest. If you take in the what is being bantered around the internet as Formula 1.5, Renault is right up there with McLaren as being kind of the dominant forces right now, and leaving teams like Haas firmly in their wake. I have no idea what happened to Haas this weekend. Where did they finish? They finished 17th, and Grosjean retired the car on lap 48 or something. They told him to come in. So there are more than just maybe different tracks set up situations. I think there's something seriously wrong at Haas and the way that they are approaching races, the way they think they are competitive, but I think that they've stood still since last season. I don't think it's for a lack of investment, but maybe their drivers are not the best going around, and they are very inwardly looking as a team, or directly at maybe one competitor, namely like Renault, when really they should be taking a little bit more stock and saying how are we going to be competitive every weekend as opposed to just at the tracks that suit us, because that's where the rest of the pack is going. We're late in a formula now, and the middle of the pack, the rest of the teams in the middle of the pack are now relatively consistent at every track, which means their package is consistent and good. So this is a real problem for Haas.
I know that they buy as much of the parts of their car as they can from Ferrari. What they don't need to copy off Ferrari, though, is their drivers being a bit shit most of the time and just being a bit poor with the strategy. And I mean, the wheels are falling off Haas's ear, and it's not because the mechanics put them on wrong this time. So, boy, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say to Haas. It's just the wrong time for this team to be pedaling backwards. It's not good. And I mean, I hope that better things come. I really think they need some new drivers. I think keep Magnussen if you have to keep one of them, but you need new drivers in that team just to spark something. You just need a bit more heart in that team. That just needs. I'm sure everyone's trying their hardest, but they just need some more inspiration, and I just don't think Grosjean gives it. I'm sorry.
Well, I actually thought that Antonio Giovinazzi might have gone there in the Ferrari stable, and that Marcus Ericsson would have stayed at Sauber at Alfa Romeo, and yet he didn't. And Giovinazzi, who had a relatively good race for Alfa this weekend, so maybe he would have been a better choice for Haas. Might have been a nice Cavalier Italian. It might have made sense for an American team, maybe. But I don't know who else is going around in the Ferrari stocks right now. I know there's a bunch of very talented Formula 2 drivers. There always seems to be these days. You watch any Formula. I caught some of the Formula 2 race this weekend, and it was phenomenal. So because it's suited, like it's an overtaking track for Formula 2 cars around Paul Ricard. So it was great racing. And I encourage people, if you're enjoying what's happening in Formula 1, and Formula 2 happens to be on the TV because you pay for a Sky subscription or whatever subscription you pay
let's
for.
say, hypothetically.
Yeah, hypothetically, or you steal it off the internet like other people. I don't do that. You could watch some Formula 2 and get quite a lot of joy out of it. And if you're going to races as well, make sure to watch the lower Formula, because they are really, really good these days, which is why Will Buxton talks about them so... in quite a lot of
favorably
every single circumstance he talks favorably of them. So
very true.
Lots of talented drivers who will happily take Pierre Gasly's spot halfway through this season.
Very true. Well, boy, I feel like we have wrung every inch of life and interest out of what was just a lackluster race for me in a season that's turning into a bit of a lackluster one. Zach, let's spark things up a little bit by getting into the Fantasy Focus recap. Still sending invitations because that was god-awful for people who want to write edit together some kind of theme. Make it a natural theme. Don't just say, I have a theme for you, and then send us the theme from Star Wars or something. Need something to do with fantasy. But, Zach, let's have a look at the fantasy results. I did make one note, which is that overall, I've fallen 2 places, and you are up 1 place. I'm in 43rd in our league. You are in 45th, and dude, it's fucking on, mate.
Oh, mate,
it's fucking on.
I'm coming for you. I am. You watch yourself. We're back in my part of the season, the European part. The real Formula 1 season. We're back here.
Okay, thanks, mate.
In Europe, none of these weird flyaways anymore. We're at home territory. I'm going to nail all these races. Yeah, man. I'm going to get them all right. The Austrias, the Germans, the other ones at Italy. That's
all
also
of
one
ones.
of them. Yep.
Spa,
it's Belgian ones.
Right, it's
they're all
right
there.
in there.
I'm going to
Hungary
guess them
somewhere for some reason.
Yeah.
This week, the top team was This Cat Picks Better Than You by Mimi the Cat O'Donnell, Phoenix F1, and then Podium Schmodium by Soda Cookie.
Great name.
Yes, very, very good. Janice Rochford did very, very well. Well done, Jan. Daniel Ricciardo. Steph's team, the team name's Daniel Avocado, came in 8th. Very good. Lots of... Train's down in 21. That's disappointing. That was for the French Grand Prix results. I think that you beat me for this week's results, which is obviously why I went down, you went up. But overall, who's leading the overall results? Pacific by Charlie O'Donnell, still number 1, followed closely by Lincoln the Naughty Dog. Quite a rivalry there. Only 3 points between those two teams.
Every prediction counts there, and every slight team change. Do you swap? Is it time to get rid of Haas, even though they cost so little?
How about this? Imagine there's 1 point the difference between these two guys, and then at the last race of the year, the fantasy bonus point question is who will get the fastest lap. So fastest lap decides our championship. How good would that be?
That would be amazing. I can see that happening.
Ooh. Please don't pick the same driver if that happens. Anything else we need to do about fantasy? Keep joining. We'll read out your funny names. I saw... Oh boy, this is going to be hard because there's so many names now, but I did see a funny one that I wanted to read out, but now I don't know where it is. I'll just have a quick glance down the old names here. Yeah, just Phil. Everybody just Phil. That's fine. Oh, Polly put the Vettel on. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. I was thinking,
might have
I had a
been
reflection on
yeah.
fantasy, because one of the problems with fantasies in all sports, fantasy teams, setups, all that kind of stuff, is that if you don't join at the start of the season, it can be disheartening to join later. Ours is not like that. Please get involved, because the week-to-week setup is terrific. But what I was thinking is, they should make it so that if you join later in the season, that you start with the average points across the entire league. So that you can, so the average points that if you take the average of what everybody's got, you just start with that. No better, no worse.
So if I'm doing really bad, just delete my account, rejoin, and I'm back in the midfield, baby.
I don't think you'd want to. But yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That is a concern.
I mean, it's cheating, and of course when you cheat, the only person you cheat is yourself, but I'm okay with that, so no problem.
God, that's a real good attitude that I...
Well, I wasn't expecting that. Zach, let's get into the super quiz.
We will accept a couple of questions. Should one only win one? Would one want to have won that one in round one?
Can you repeat the question?
I love that.
Zach, do you have... it's a fun one. Do you have any tasty morsels for me this week?
Tasty morsels. Rod, it's the Tilke Pink quiz. Are you ready?
Sorry, repeat, please.
The Tilke Pink quiz? Like tickled pink.
Okay. I've been tickled pink. I've been tilted pink. All right.
Yeah,
okay.
we're going to talk about some
Now
tracks.
that I understand the pun, all good puns need explaining, so that's okay.
So harsh. Here
Makes
I
it
am,
twice as funny.
turning up for the podcast week in, week out, and you're making fun of my puns.
Not having it go. I just want to make sure that everybody hears it and understands it.
It's because I'm a fast-talking Australian, and I'm so ocker and all that kind of jazz. I don't
You see
get
the
accused of
lettering
being
on the
English all the
cover,
time.
it was like raised as if it was sandpaper. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay. Let's get into the quiz.
We're going to talk about some tracks. We're going to talk about some ages. We're going to talk about some specifically designed Tilke tracks. He is him and the Tilke group are accused of designing bad tracks or poor tracks or unexciting tracks. So why not talk about his boring life? Instead,
Why not?
let's start the quiz off with something really simple. Rod, nice easy one to kick us off. Question 1. What is the newest track on the Formula One calendar?
The newest track. Okay.
Yeah, mate.
I mean,
the newest track.
I always overthink these, but I mean, I'm assuming you're not including the French Grand Prix because that's
No,
an old
it's-
track.
Well, it's an old track. No, I'm saying the newest built track.
Newest built track.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's been on the calendar for the shortest amount of time.
It's not the USA, is it?
No. That is a very new track though.
Oh man, I just wish that I could just pause for another couple of minutes and think about it because I'll get it. But I mean, that's just
Well,
bad
what's going through your
podcasting,
mind?
right?
What are the new races that have been coming on the calendar over the last few years? You know, there's been lots of new ones. Maybe some of them are returning, like France, so that doesn't count. There's a nice old track. What are some of the newer races?
Oh man, but there's just so many.
Questions within questions.
Just so many. All I can think of is all the really famous ones because the old brain is firing, you know, on limited capacity. So like the biggest and boldest things that's all that's coming to mind. Russia.
No, it's not Russia. I'm going to put you out of your misery. It's close by.
Okay, thanks.
It's Baku.
Baku, of course.
Baku. Well, let's see how we go with this next question then, seeing as the old plane's not firing so well.
Shit.
Do you want to give me the oldest track?
Is it this one?
No. This is old though. But this one, you know, let me give you a little clue. They talk about every year, you know, there's this old part of the track that you can walk on now that's no longer part of the track anymore. But, its heritage goes back to so long. It is Monza. It is the circuit Della de Monza, which is it's a big old track, right? It's a big old track. So
It certainly is.
I thought you were going to ask a question. You went, certainly is.
No.
It was just an exclamation. I thought you were going to challenge me on my quiz. How dare you?
You're saying I'm not even yes-anding you. I'm just yesing you.
You just... I don't think it works if you just yes someone.
Yes.
So, how are you feeling about the quiz? Do you feel like you're nice and warmed up now? Can we move on to
Definitely.
Herman Tilke now?
Fighting fit. Yeah, let's
the
go.
namesake.
This is what's
of the
been
quiz?
holding me back. Is that I was set to answer questions about Herman Tilke and you didn't give me any. So yeah, no, come on, bring it.
All right, Herman Tilke. How many tracks on the 2019 calendar did Herman Tilke design or renovate? Now, Rod, I'm going to give you multiple choice here instead.
Okay.
So, how many did Herman Tilke and his group of architects and engineers and designers, and I'm sure other people who work there, how many did they design or renovate? Was it 3, 5, or 8?
Ooh, it's got to be 8.
It is 8. It's a lot of them. Even the old ones he's helped renovate and fix up and make them good, apparently, or worthy of being on the season calendar.
Yes.
And other ones he's just downright helped out. So things like the Red Bull ring, which is like the Österreich A1 ring, is now the Red Bull ring. He helped do that. He did Bahrain, he did Shanghai, he did Marina Bay, Singapore, he did Yas Marina in Abu Dhabi, he did the Circuit of the Americas in the US, he did the Sochi Autodrome for Russia, and he did the Baku Street Circuit in Azerbaijan. Apparently, there are 4 designers who are contracted to work on Formula One tracks. I couldn't find anything on the other 3. I couldn't find their names, who they were, any existence of them. If you do anything to do with track design, it is only Herman Tilke's name who comes up. Yeah.
There's Herman Tilke, there's Terman Hilke, there's Tilke Hilke, and Herman Terman.
HT.
They're the 4 guys.
Designers. Next question. In and amongst all of this designing stuff, obviously it costs money to build these tracks. In another multiple choice question, Rod, how much does it cost to build a track in US dollars? Is it A, 75 million, B, 125 million, or C, 200 million? This is about what it costs, obviously not. So you can spend way more or way less if you wanted to. But this is, if you and I were decided we want to build a Formula One track, we're going to have to spend either 75 million, 125 million, or 200 million.
And we're going to split the difference right down the middle and say 125 million.
H 125 million US dollars. That's what it'll cost you to build yourself a Formula One track with a bit of help with H. Tilke and his band of merry designers. All right, Rod, the last question of the day. What track that Herman Tilke designed is joining the 2020 F1 calendar?
Vietnam.
It's Vietnam. Wow, no or R or anything of our usual quiz.
Well, I was like, what track is joining the 2020 calendar? It's got to be Vietnam.
That's it. That's
I won the quiz.
You won the quiz.
Majority
I feel
wins.
like you got most of them right. That's so unlike us these days.
Well, did you count up how many questions there were? That'll help us work out.
Oh yeah, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions on this quiz.
I think I got 3 right. That gives me 3 out of 5. That's majority rules.
Yeah, exactly. That's enough to form government. So you've been Tilked Pink.
I like that there were questions like, how expensive is it to build a track? Actually, would recommend a podcast called How to Fuck Up an Airport, about building a German airport and how expensive it was and everything that went wrong. And I learned a lot about what it takes to, what it costs to build big infrastructure projects. I feel like that gave me the confidence I needed to win the quiz. Thanks guys who did that. Yeah.
Oh.
Good one.
I'm going to save my final talk. I was going to talk about another podcast, which seems to be the thing I do on every show nowadays, but I'm just going to pull up what I want to say about it for the next segment.
Yeah. This transitions us then nicely, Zach, into the final thought. So I can go into my first final thought if you want to, or if you're ready. You can interrupt me rudely.
Okay. Yeah, shut up, Rodney.
Rude.
I've got a thing. I think I'm ready. Where is it? Oh, shit, I'm not.
Shut up, Rodney. It's my turn to talk about my thing, where is it?
Where is it? Aha, here we go. The podcast is called The Anthropocene Reviewed. This was recently featured on 99% Invisible, which if you listen to another podcast, I highly recommend that one. But this one is The Anthropocene Reviewed, which is a podcast by the guy John Green, who is a bit of an internet celebrity, but he also wrote the book Fault in Our Stars, and that movie became really famous. He also is like the main sponsor of AFC Wimbledon, of football club, Wimbledon Football Club. He's a big YouTuber and stuff, but he's got a new podcast called The Anthropocene Reviewed, where he takes 2 things. For example, he'll take the Velociraptors and Harvey, or he'll take Indianapolis and Love at First Sight, and he will rate those 2 things, usually from quite a subjective point of view, which is it's a bit narratorial, a bit self-referential, but it's very, very, very interesting, and because he's such a talented writer, it's really, really good. I will suggest, though, The latest episode, which came out on the 30th of May, is Scratch and Sniff Stickers and Indianapolis 500, the Indy 500. I never really understood people's love for that race, and I never really got why it was so big and so interesting, other than heritage. I now think I get it. I would highly recommend listening to that episode, because what he says about Scratch and Sniff Stickers is really interesting. But the Indianapolis part speaks of a really incredible group meeting and group experience, and speaks about sport generally in a way that really clicked with me and really resounded with how I feel about sport and why I love sport generally, and talks a lot about how sport is often the realms of the jocks and maybe groups of people that aren't as accessible if you're not counted among them very early on in your life. But now I think that, especially with sports like Formula One, and we've seen it this year with people coming through from watching the Drive to Survive documentary and then discovering that they like Formula One and want to be involved in it. And like me and you, Rod, we don't really watch any other motorsport. We only watch Formula One, and I wouldn't necessarily say that we were sport diehards, but we love this one. And so that podcast explains a lot more of that in a really lovely way. So I'd highly recommend. That's my thought of the week.
Just looking at that now, there's a lot of other episodes, one like Super Mario Kart and the Bonneville Salt Flats, and one called Tetris and the Seed Potatoes of Leningrad, which I think was a chapter in Alexei Sayle's autobiography as well, so that's interesting. But yeah, I'll subscribe, not to the show, but let's subscribe to that episode, and I will let you personally know, Zach, what I thought of that, and not bring it back onto the show, because that would be rude. But yeah, I hope everyone enjoys that fantastic recommendation. I'm always looking for good podcast recommendations. Zach, it's time for my final thought, which is, if you thought you were having a bad day, spare a thought for Formula 2 driver Mahavir Raghunathan. And you said you watched the Formula 2 race, and I didn't want to encourage you to keep talking about it because I wanted to talk about it as my final thought. Raghunathan has been banned from the next round in Austria, having exceeded the 12 allotted penalty points on his super license. In the French Formula 2 race, he failed to observe the virtual safety car on 3 occasions and was given a 15-second time penalty in the race, as well as 9 points. And if you're thinking, oh, that's harsh. That's harsh. In one race, he takes 9 penalty points. Here's what he's done for the rest of the season so far. In Bahrain, he passed the checkered flag twice, which is apparently a thing, and he copped a penalty that was served at the next race. And then in Baku, he didn't stop at the weighbridge, and then he overtook someone too early before the safety car restart. And then in Monaco, he was penalised for leaving the track and gaining an advantage, and then causing a collision. And then in another race, driving across the pit lane entry and cutting the first corner. So that is not so much a series of penalties, that is a rap sheet.
Yeah. Has someone handed him the rule book? Maybe that's the problem.
Sure.
Just doesn't know the rules.
Sure. It could be mistaken identity, and his twin brother is meant to be driving or something.
Yeah, that could be it. Or they swap, so they forget that the other one has made errors and that there's points on the license.
Yes.
They've got a joint license.
Or he got hit hard on the head, but he got hit hard like an odd number of times and not an even number of times, and he has amnesia. Just forgot all the rules.
Oh, that's it.
Either way, if you're going to Austria, make sure you watch the Formula 2 race, but you will not see that driver driving, and that might be a good thing.
No, Rod, you know what it really is? It's believes in real racing, man. He just wants to get rid of the regulations and just
what did Ricciardo say? He said something like, I'd rather race on my feet than get penalties on my knees, or something, some weird phrase that Daniel said. I'd rather go hard and race and get penalised than sit back and relax or something. He said something dumb like that. It's like, yeah, but Dan, it was really dumb.
Yeah.
It was so dumb.
Don't
do that again, please. Oh boy. Well, Zach, there's another race coming up in just another few days, so we get a chance to do this again next week, my friend. Everybody enjoy the race. I hope that your life between then and now is just friggin' fantastic. I hope you're living your best life, and if you're not, come back next time and let us know. We'll let you know what you can do better.
Yeah, exactly. What race is it? What do we got? We got Austria. Just like that.
Austria? Is it not Austria?
There.
I believe so.
It is. Spielberg. Österreich.
Time of print. It's Austria, yeah.
Get ready for Lederhosen. Here we go. Formula One drivers in Lederhosen.
Start growing your neck beard out.
Yeah.
All right, hipsters. Time for us to bid you adieu. We'll see you in the lovely hills of Austria, singing The Hills Are Alive. Until then, my name's Ben Rodney.
And my name's been Zach.
See you in Austria. Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Pumped. So pumped. This is another episode.